Howdy Beans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Howdy Beans podcast. I'm your host, Luke the Howdy Bean. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're all good. As per usual, today we're looking into a movie that I have wanted to watch for years. It had been on my list for years. It has been my white whale. It has been my Moby Dick. It has been the movie that I've been hunting for to watch for a long time, but every time I get a chance to, something always comes up. But ever since I started the podcast, it has been the one movie that I've wanted to watch, wanting to own, wanting to see. And finally, it came round to my birthday, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to buy myself the movie on Blu-ray. I'm going to buy the director's cut, and I'm going to sit and watch this movie, and I'm going to love it, and I'm going to enjoy it. And I did. And that movie is Léon the Professional from 1994. But before we get into all of that and more, I want to do a bit of housekeeping, because I like to keep my house nice and clean, especially if Léon the Professional is coming in. I want to make sure that the house is absolutely spotless and that I have tons of milk around for him. I think it's double milk that he likes, so I'll make sure I've got a lot of that around the house. But to make sure I have that double milk and the house is nice and clean, I need you to make sure that you follow me on Twitter, howdybeans_pod. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you listen to this on Spotify, don't forget to give me a follow on Spotify and to rate the podcast 5 stars. You can also find the podcast on TikTok and Instagram now. So just type in the Howdy Beans podcast on there and you can find me on those platforms. So talk about my memories of this movie. Normally when I do a review, I tend to have either not watched the movie before, or I tend to have watched it, but I haven't watched it in a long time. This movie, though, I was and ahhing, like, do I watch the movie first and then do the review, or do I watch the movie and then do it? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what to do. Should I not watch it? Should I watch it? In the end, I buckled. I was like, you know what? I've got the house to myself. I'm going to watch it. Also, because I've got the director's cut, I didn't realize this, but it not only comes with the director's cut on the Blu-ray, but it also comes with the original theatre version, the original theatre cut, which is about 110 minutes long, whereas the director's cut is about 133 minutes. So I thought, you know what? That would be a cool idea. Watch the original version, the original run of the movie, and then watch the director's cut for the review to see the added scenes, to see what extra scenes have been added in or taken out. And I find that kind of interesting because, as I do, I tend to get really sort of enveloped when I have a special interest, when there's something that I find and that I love and that I just sort of am enraptured by. I just go in hard, and I have to do tons of research, and I've got to have everything that connects to it, as I did with Léon. And I watched this movie, absolutely fell in love with it. I'll talk about my thoughts in a minute. And I went online and did some Googling about Luc Besson, because, again, I am a big fan of Luc Besson. I think his early work is absolutely brilliant, and he's a fantastic writer as well as director. And I think actually watching this, I think I'm actually a sort of proper fan of Luc Besson now. And one day I will talk about The Fifth Element, I promise. I've got it on Blu-ray. I will watch it one day. Anyway, I did some research in this movie, and I actually found rather interesting. So even though there's a director's cut of this movie, Luc Besson himself doesn't class that as a director's cut. In his opinion, the director's cut is the original theatre version that came out, the 110-minute version, which everybody saw, right? And the director's cut, he classes that as just a longer version of the movie. So in his opinion, the director's cut is the original version that I saw, whereas the director's cut is just a longer version with added scenes. Again, when I get to the actual review itself, I'll talk about the director's cut specifically because I haven't seen it yet. I know the basis of what scenes are added, but I can only talk about what I've seen at the moment. So again, I'm not going to go into that. As for sort of my memories and thoughts in this movie, I loved it. I got it. Not instantly. As I watched this movie, I was a bit worried, mostly because many times when I've got hyped over something, and I've said this many times on the podcast, hype kills anything. The problem is the more you hype something up, if I have I don't know, if I get a brand new video game, GTA 6, for example, I get GTA 6, been waiting for years about it, getting all hyped, saw the trailers, oh my God, it's incredible. I finally get GTA 6, I put it in the Xbox, I start playing it, and then I'm like, oh, this is not it's good, but it's not what I thought it was going to be. And the reason that is the fact of I've built this idea of what GTA 6 is going to be in my head for so long that by the time I get to it, it's never going to compare to what my brain told me it was going to be like. And that was my worry going into Léon, was like, oh my God, it's not going to be as good. It's going to be terrible. I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to hate it. And, oh God, what, please? And at the beginning, as the movie starts, I was sitting there going, I'm not sure. But then it clicked. And once it clicked, I was sold. I was just, when I say enraptured, I was glued to the TV. I didn't look at my watch. I did not look at the phone. I was sitting in the dark. I was in cinema mode. Had the surround sound on. I was fully into it. Gary Oldman took me to another place. That man is a chameleon. I always knew he was talented, but fuck me. Sorry for my language, but if you've seen this movie, Gary Oldman's performance in this movie is just masterclass. But he just took me away, and then the character of Léon, and then sort of Natalie Portman, and this is her first ever role, and she's so talented. I'm like, oh my God. And then the end of the movie, oh my God, just tears. As soon as that Shape of My Heart comes on by Sting, I was flooded. I was like, I get it. I get this movie. I love it so much. I was just so emotional. You know what I mean? And I just couldn't wait to get around to watching the extended version. I even afterwards, as soon as the movie ended, I watched the special features, and the special feature goes into like a 10-year retrospective on Léon. John Reno's The Road to Léon, so that's like a little interview he did, kind of explaining how he kind of made the character of Léon. It's really fascinating. Obviously, Jean Reno as well. He was in the French Royal Legion as well before he got into acting, and absolutely fascinating. Natalie Portman, again, she talks about starting young and wanting to be in this movie and what it meant to her. An interview with John Reno, again, that was more of a longer sort of form interview, and then an interview with Eric Serra, which is the guy that did the music for this film. And I was just taken, and I did my research and did more into it. And I was just like, I've got to get loads of things together before I do this review, because I've got so much to say. And you can obviously already tell, because I've already watched it quite recently, it's still fresh in my mind. And I'm trying to pull myself back, because but leave some for later. You know what I mean? Like, leave some for the review later. Like, don't give them away all at once. But yeah, I just really love it. And I ended up looking into other films that Luc Besson has made before like Fifth Element and things like that, the movies he made in the 90s, other movies that he has he hasn't directed, but he's written. And some of them I've actually seen, some of them I haven't. So I've actually added some of those to my list of like, okay, I want to look into that, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's led me down a rabbit hole. And that's why it's taken me a while to actually get around to recording this intro, is just because I've just went into like a deep dive of Léon and the character, and Luc Besson and all the other movies that he's done, and just moving things around and stuff like that. So it's been a sort of passionate sort of love, but I'm finally here. So anyway, that's my sort of memories and feelings on this movie. As you can tell, it's going to be a sort of very positive and manic sort of review, and hopefully people stick around now, even though I've given most of it away. Hopefully people stick around and check it out. Anyway, moving on. So the synopsis of this movie, I'm going to read the synopsis that's on the back of the director's cut Blu-ray that I own. So it goes as follows. So Jean Reno, Gary Oldman, and Natalie Portman in her film debut all star in this highly influential seminal 90s action/thriller directed by Luc Besson. Léon is the controversial and unforgettable story of an unlikely friendship within a brutal and violent world. 12-year-old Matilda lives within the desperate confines of a squalid New York apartment block. On returning from a shopping trip, Matilda finds that her abusive, dysfunctional family and her beloved younger brother have been slaughtered by a psychotic drug-dealing police officer. In fear for her life, she takes refuge with her reluctant, mysterious, and solitary neighbor. His name is Léon, and he's one of the world's deadliest assassins. And while Matilda begins to teach him how to live, Léon begins to teach her how to kill. That is your sort of synopsis of this movie. As for the cast, so as I mentioned, I've already mentioned a few already, but the cast of this movie is just brilliant. So you have Jean Reno as Léon, Gary Oldman as Stanfield, Natalie Portman as Matilda, Danny Elio as Tony, Willie Warmblood, I promise you that's what it says here, as First Stanfield Man, Peter Appeal as Mulkey, Don Creech as Second Stanfield Man, Michael Baluko as Matilda's father, Elizabeth Regan as Matilda's sister, and Ellen Greene as Matilda's mother. There is a moment, I'm not going to mention it now, but there is a moment that, if you know the character of Ellen Greene, she was in Little Shop of Horrors. There is a moment where in this movie, and I promise you, she's wearing the exact same outfit as that she wore in Little Shop of Horrors. I don't know if that was a coincidence or not, but it's almost identical. And I thought that was just really good. But again, we'll talk about it when we get to the movie. There is just so much about this movie that I want to talk about, but I don't want to get into yet. Anyway, as for the production, believe it or not, despite this movie being so widely loved and being a sort of brilliant film, especially with movie fans and movie buffs, you would think there would be a lot on the production. Surprisingly, not. I struggled, even with doing my sort of extensive research to find anything. What I was able to find, was somewhat detailed, but not as much as I would have hoped. But it's not really there. It just means we have more time in the review to talk about this movie. Anyway, so Léon the Professional is to some extent an expansion of an idea in Besson's earlier 1990 film La Famille Nikita, in some countries known as Nikita. In La Famille Nikita, Jeanne Rameau plays a similar character named Victor. Besson describes Léon as now maybe Jean is playing the American cousin of Victor. This time he's more human. Luc Besson drew inspiration from Jeff Costello's, played by Alden Delon in Le Samurai, to create Léon. While most of the interior footage was shot in France, the rest of the film was shot on location in New York City. The final scene at school was filmed at the Stevenson's Institute of Technology in Hoboken, New Jersey. So yeah, there wasn't a lot I could find, sadly, for this film. But like I said, it just leaves me more to sort of talk about the what's the word I'm looking for? The actual review itself. There was actually one thing I do want to mention, which I find kind of interesting. So in terms of the future, I know we're currently in the future, and this was made in 1994. But Besson wrote a script for a sequel named Matilda, but filming was delayed until Portman was older. In the script, Matilda is described as older and more mature and works as a cleaner. So she's now a fully fledged assassin now, right? However, in the meantime, Besson left Gaumont to start a movie studio, Europa Corp. Unhappy at Besson's departure, Gaumont has held the professional rights close to their vest and will not budge, the professional being Léon the Professional. In 2011, director Oliver Megaton, great name by the way, told reporters that he and Besson used the script for Matilda as the basis for The Colombian, a film about a young cleaner played by Zoe Saldana. Like Matilda, her character goes to war with a drug cartel as revenge for the murder of her family when she was a child. So there is a script out there for a sequel to this movie called Matilda. I still want to see it with an older Natalie Portman, but we have had that script used, for another movie, and now I have to go watch the Colombian with Zoe Saldana. I've never heard of this movie. I don't know if it's good or bad. It doesn't matter. Just knowing that they used the script for potential sequels to this film as the basis for that one, I'm all here for it. But that's just a little something that I wanted to add in. Because I just thought people would find it interesting. As for the extended version, so there is an extended version of this film, which I will watch in a minute, referred to as the international version, containing 25 minutes of additional footage. It is sometimes called the director's cut, but Besson refers to the original version as the director's cut and the new version as the long version. According to Besson, this is the version he wanted to release. However, the extra scenes tested poorly with Los Angeles preview audiences. The additional material is found in the film's second act, and it depicts more of the interactions and relationship between Léon and Matilda. So that is that. And that's it. Yeah, no, that's it. I just can't wait. I just can't wait to talk about it. So I'm going to stop talking I've already talked 15 minutes now about how much I love this movie. I'm going to go off and watch the director's cut of Léon the Professional. And then when I come back, first impressions, story, music, production design, you know how it all works by now. Overall thoughts, bit of trivia, wrap things up nicely, and then sort of go home. So I'm going to watch Léon, and I'll be back in a minute. And welcome back, everyone. So I've now watched Léon the Professional, the director's cut, and I'll talk about the director's cut separately. I just want to talk about this movie as a whole for now. You know, my first impressions. Honestly, as you probably would have expected, I love this movie. I love this movie so much that, as I said in the introduction, I went on a deep dive, not only into this movie, but also into Luc Besson, into other films that he's done. And it's become my new sort of special interest, if that makes sense. It's been one of them films that whenever like it's come up in conversation of like, oh, I don't know what to watch, you know, TV's a bit crap, that sort of thing. Whenever it's come up at work, like usually 9 times out of 10, it's been like, oh, you watch Amelie, it will change your life. But lately, it's been like, have you seen Léon the Professional? You need to watch this movie. You've not seen Léon the Professional. Oh my God, how have you not seen this? Like one of the best movies that Luc Besson has ever made. You know, it's got John Reno in it and Natalie Portman and like Gary Oldman's. It's like, oh my God. You know, I've been properly hyping this movie up to everybody that I can, the people that come into work, people that I work with and that sort of thing. Like everybody and anybody, I've been telling you've got to watch this movie. So it's become a new favorite of mine. It's become my new special interest, and I just can't get enough of it. And then watching it again the second time with the extended version and seeing all the extra scenes, seeing all the extra deeper sort of context and that sort of thing, I just love this movie more. But like I said, I'll get on to talking about the director's cut in a minute. This film is so clever. And I was worried when I first watched it, to be honest, because when I first started watching it and it first started to play, I was sitting there and I just wasn't clicking with me. And then it settled in with me like, oh my God, you know, what if I've made a mistake? What if I've hyped it up too much in my head? Because I've done that before with loads of other films where you hype it up, and then it's not as good. And then, you know, you instantly start to, your world starts to crumble around you. And I was worried of like, oh my God, it's not clicking. I'm not getting it. You know, it's a bit slow. I'm really worried that it's not going to be as good. And the moment where it clicked for me is where you have Matilda and Léon interact properly for the first time. Not like when she's smoking on the landing or anything like that. When Matilda's family's being killed by Gary Oldman's character, and you know she walks past, she knocks on Leon's door, she's like, please let me in, and Léon lets her in, and they have that dynamic back and forth there, and then you know she's like, please let me be a cleaner, let me become an assassin with you, train me, let me live with you, because if you let me go tonight, I will die tonight. And you didn't have to open that door, and you did open that door, so you've obviously opened it for a reason. You saved me for a reason, so now you owe me, one sort of thing. If you let me out tonight, it'd be like you never opened the door. And it was like that moment, and everything that went on afterwards was their dynamic. I was sold. I instantly got this movie. Like I was there. I was in my seat. I was like I get it. I'm all in now. Like, don't worry about the worries of the beginning. That's gone now. Like I'm fully 100% invested. And it was funny because as I'm watching it, I'm like, this is a French movie that happens to be set in New York, happens to be English, because I know Luc Besson is French, and I know some parts of this movie were shot in France. And then a lot of the on location was shot in New York. But it's a very French feeling movie. The music, the shots, the visuals, the way it looks in terms of, everything has a certain sort of color to it all. Kind of like if you watch The Matrix, everything has like a sort of green film on it. This movie has like a yellow sort of tinge on it, which is sort of the standard for a lot of French sort of movies. I don't know why. But a lot of the French movies that I've watched, especially ones from like the sort of 80s and 90s, have a sort of this yellow sort of film on it. And the music as well, and the way it's shot and the way it just feels of like, this is a very French movie that's also English. And I love it for that. For somebody who loves French cinema, who is a fan of movies like Amélie and Luc Besson and stuff like that, I love this movie, and it just spoke to me so much so that as the movie went on, as you saw the performances that were like Gary Oldman, John Reno, from Natalie Portman, all the supporting casts as well, all the performances, the music, the visuals, non-stop. You get that final sort of epic sort of battle scene at the end. So I won't go into full-on spoilers, but you get that full-on ending, and then you've just got Natalie Portman on her own. It's her, and she's got the plant, and she heads off to this like boarding sort of school. She gets there, and she has a word with the head teacher, and she's like, "Oh, my parents died 4 weeks ago. It was very tragic." And the woman says to her, she's like, "Oh, we never really got to know each other the first time, but I'm willing to give you a second chance, but you need to be honest with me." So she's honest. So she tells her, like, "Look, my family were killed because my dad got in trouble with some drug dealers, and I was saved by a man who taught me how to be a hitman." She just laid it all out on the table. And then she goes outside, she's got this plant, and she kept saying to Léon, I was like, you keep watering this plant and you give this plant loads of love, but what you should really do if you really love this plant is to take it out, find a park somewhere, bury it in the ground and let it sort of grow roots so it can grow bigger and stronger. And she does that at the end of the movie, and she digs it. She digs a hole in the ground. She puts it in there. She puts the soil back in, and in the back I can hear "Shape of My Heart" by Sting. It's just sort of the instrumental playing in the background, and then sort of Natalie Portman, she's like, we're going to be okay now, Léon. And the camera pulls up, and the music starts, and you see a visual of the trees, and then the city skyline of New York, and then I'm just in tears. I am in literal tears. I am sobbing. I am just like it clicked. This whole movie clicks, but that ending just, oh my God, it was just, I'm there. I'm sold. I've just been on a roller coaster, and it got me. And it could be again because I'm such a big lover of Shape of Your Heart. Like, kind of, I know it always comes back to Amélie, and so I do apologize there. But Amélie was the same situation. Like, that movie, I'd only ever watched the trailer, but the music had stayed with me. And for years and years and years, I had listened to that music, that theme of the Amelie's theme, over and over again for years, until one day I just decided, like, I've got to watch the movie that this music's to. And I did, and I fell in love. And it was the same thing here. It was like Shape of Your Heart. I heard that over and over and over again. Didn't know it had anything to do with Léon. And then to find out later that it did, and then to be more invested in wanting to watch this movie, and then be like, look, finally I've got to watch it. And I did. And to be blown away, and then to go for that sort of journey that I went on. And then to hear that music, I was waiting for the whole movie of like, okay, when's going to be Shape of My Heart? When's it going to be put in? When's it going to be used? And we're getting near to the end of the movie. I'm like, I haven't heard it yet. Like, I feel a bit cheated. Like, where is it? And at that crucial moment, at that real crucial bit, at the very end, that music hits, and I was in tears. The floodworks just came out because the song, I don't know if the song was written for the movie. If it was or if it wasn't, it doesn't matter. It fits Léon so perfectly that it just works to the point of like, oh my God, like, I've just lost Léon. And now I'm remembering a song that, because I didn't cry when the events of what happens with Léon happens. And I didn't cry. I didn't get emotional. I was just like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean? But then that music, and I was like, oh my God. All that tears just come out. And I'm like, I know Matilda's safe. Léon, no, she's okay. She can be fine. And then sort of Leon's gone, but it doesn't really matter. Like, she'll be all right. And it just let loose. And I was just sort of drenched in sort of emotion and tear, to the point of where normally you'd get up and like you take the DVD out and you just sort of go about your day. I didn't. Yeah, I watched all the credits. I listened to the whole of Shape of My Heart, and then I listened to the whole of watch all the credits until the menu screen came back up. And it wasn't until the menu came back up that I was like, okay, I've got to get up now. I was just in that pocket, in that zone, and it was biblical. It was incredible. So my first experience watching this movie was transcendental. You know what I mean? I just went through the motions. And I fell in love with Léon. I fell in love with Matilda. I fell in love with this world, these characters. Even Gary Oldman's character, like, I've got to mention Stanfield, right? So this performance is so psychopathic, so insane, so crazy, so raw, so believable. Like I knew it was Gary Oldman, but fuck me, did I forget it was Gary Oldman? And what I mean by that is the fact of I knew it was Gary Oldman, I knew he's an actor, I know it's a movie, but the way this man performs, you watch him in anything, he does this in every single role he's done. Like, he may look like Gary Oldman, but he's a chameleon, right? He just, the way, because when you first see him, you don't see his face, you see the back of his head. He's just nodding their music on, and then the guy taps him on the shoulder, he turns around, and instantly that's Gary Oldman's face, but that's not Gary Oldman. That's not, it's like what's the best way to explain it? Salem's Lot. This is a weird analogy, but it's the best I have at the moment because my brain's a bit scattered. In Salem's Lot, they always say that dead, sometimes dead is better, because what comes back is not, who you remember. And it's the same thing here. It's the fact of it has the face of Gary Oldman, but that's not who I see on the screen right now. That's Stanfield. Forget Gary Oldman. Gary who? I don't know. This is Stanfield. And he's like a chameleon. He's in that role, and he plays like Jekyll and Hyde, because he's like that first scene. Like, he makes you feel uncomfortable. He makes you feel sort of violated. He makes you feel uneasy because you don't know what he's going to do. You don't know, what he's going to say next. If he's being serious, if he's joking, are you in danger? Are you not in danger? Like, generally, the guy is a wild sort of cannon, and at any moment he could just explode, right? And he sees the guy, and he's sniffing him, and he's really close to him, really, really close to Matilda's dad, and he's like, "No, I know, I believe you." Really calm, but because he's calm, you're not calm. You're like, "Why is he calm? Why is he calm?" Because this guy just has that essence instantly, without saying a word. Instantly, the way Gary Oldman's facial features are, the way he's holding himself, you're instantly like, you feel uncomfortable. And then a little bit later on, there's a scene where Gary Oldman, sort of Stanfield, gives Matilda's dad, like, you've got until tomorrow noon to find out who sort of took a cut of our coke, right? If you don't find out then, basically, he doesn't say it, but he's going to come back. So he goes, sort of a couple minutes later, it's the next day, he comes back, and he takes a pill. Now, I don't know what's in this pill. Is it coke, heroin, PCP, angel dust? I don't know. Whatever it is. But whenever he takes it, he just turns. And the way, again, I don't know if this was a choice or this was just something that he just did, but the way he takes the pill is uncomfortable. It's unsettling. Because anybody else, when they take medication or pill or whatever, they just take some water, take it, knock it back, done. No. The way he does it, it's like it changes him. It's like he turns into something. It's like he's taking poison. It's like it's killing him, the way he reacts, because he takes it and he just puts his head up, and it's like his whole body just like breaks and morphs and he just turns into somebody else, because as soon as he takes that pill, his head cranks up to the sky, and he looks up, and the camera switches to be above him, and he looks up to this camera, and he just, like, when you're yawning, you yawn, and you sort of contort your body to a certain way, so you kind of like that. It's like he contorts his body like he's yawning, and then he's got his pill in his mouth, he's like, and then he crunches it, and when he crunches it, it's like his whole body breaks, but it morphs, and then he kind of releases, and he's somebody else. Stanfield is gone, Jekyll is gone, Hyde is now sort of in control, and he just starts walking down, happy as Larry. He's like, "Oh, I like Mozart. I quite like Beethoven. Can you hear it? Can you hear it?" It's like he's on ecstasy. He's like, "Can you hear it? Music," and he's doing all these hand movements in the air, and it's like he can see things. He can see the notes flying in front of him, and then the cameras follow him, and then you're just on a roller coaster. You're just following Stanford. He's got all these guys with him. He takes the shotgun off, and it is like he's listening to music. He's listening to Mozart, and he shoots the door off. Chases the Matilda's older sister around, shoots her in the back, goes into the bathroom. The mom's in the bath, right? She's got headphones on, and She can't see it. She's in the bath. He just boots the door down. Bam! Like literally shoots her in the chest in the bath. There's also a scene a little bit later where you can see there's a hole. Like the shotgun blast was that close range. It was gone through her chest, out the back of the bath, to the point of water's coming out and blood at the same time. And he's making his way through, and then he stops because he sees Matilda's dad in the corner, right? And he puts the shotgun down very calmly, and he's doing all his little dancing. And then there's these like beads in front of him, like one of them like bead screens. And he puts his hand together like as if he was to pray, and he puts his hand through the beads, and he just breaks it apart gently so he can come around like la la la, kind of like Jesus or a prophet just walks through like la 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 like that. And then he's really calm, and he the guy's in the corner, sort of Stanfield puts his arm on the mantelpiece, and he smiles at him, looks at him, kind of like really psychotic, kind of like jokery sort of thing. Smiles at him and goes, "You don't like Beethoven," or something like that. He goes, I quite like Beethoven, but and he starts then playing the piano on the mantelpiece, just playing the piano. And then he goes, he was Dutch and Sweden. I can't do it now. What did he say? He was Austrian, don't you know, or something like that. He does it, and he just goes from doing an Austrian accent back to sort of being American accent. And he's playing, and you watch it, you're like, I don't know what he's going to do. I can't, like, this guy, I don't know where he's going. And what makes me laugh about this is the fact of you're made unsettled, not just by what he's doing and watching him do it, but you can tell that his men are unsettled by him because they're jumpy. You can tell they've done this many times, but they're jumpy because he's gone in there. They don't know what he's going to do. There's a moment where he's just killed the older sister, and he's going back and forth with a shotgun looking for the bloke. And you got these guys, his men are slowly coming through the door. As they're coming through, like they're coming in slowly. They're not coming in quick. They're coming in slowly, not because they're scared of anybody else in there, because they're scared of him. They're coming in slowly, and it's played for a laugh, bit of a funny moment. And again, he doesn't turn around to look at him, point the gun at him or anything like that. He literally, like an apparition, like a ghost, he goes from one room to the next through the hallway, like that. And because it's so quick, either that's terrified them, or one of them kind of got too close and hit one of them in the back. So that made the front man sort of shit himself. And they're both looking just like, "What the fuck?" So you can tell, like, they're constantly nervous. You've got the guy Benny on the front door. He's terrified. He's shitting himself because he doesn't know who's going to come through that door. To the point of when you've got Steinfeld's like main guy, Malky, I think his name is. You've got him that he's like, Malky's like, "We're coming out now. We're coming out." And as he puts his head around, he shoots. He's like, "Fuck's sake, Malky," sort of thing. And you can tell he's nervous. It's because they've just set the Tasmanian Devil. They've just sent Lucifer loose on a building, on this family. And they don't know if they're going to be on the firing range. They know he's a loose cannon. They know that he's a psychopath. So they don't want to be the end of the gun because, he's mental. And then, like, the dad gets a shotgun, tries to take a shot at him, doesn't work, kills another guy, and then he tries to run away. So Garriman's on the ground, run past him. Steinfeld shoots the dad, shoots him twice in the back, and then he gets up, and then he's all normal. And then he looks to his left, sees that there's a sort of hole in his suit, a bit of blood where like the shrapnel has gone past and hit him, but also took in his suit. He's like, "Oh, fucking." My suit, fucking suit. So he gets his gun out, fucking big 45 Magnum, pulls it, starts loading it. Coming through, Malky's like, "You're right, Stanfield, you're okay." Doesn't answer him. And he's literally going, following him in the hallway as the dad's like crawling, like belly crawling, like trying to get to the door. And he just shoots him, bam, in the back, bam, bam, bam. Like, "My suit, look what you fucking did to my suit, bam, bam," like in the back. And then Malcolm's like, "What's up?" And then he kind of looks at him and he's like, "Calm, man, calm, Stanfield, calm." And he looks and goes, I'm calm, but look what he did to my suit." And like you got Malky's like, "No, it's okay. Like, you just take a breather. You need a smoke. We'll go outside." And that's when Benny almost takes a shot at him, and he goes outside. He goes like, "Calm." He gives him a smoke. Old lady comes out, and this old lady is like, "What's going on out there?" And the old guy's like, and Malky's like, "Look, DA, don't worry about it, man. We've got it all under control right now. Just go back in your house." Malky goes back in, and Stanfield's like, "I'm calm," and he looks at the woman, says, "I'm calm." And the woman looks at him and goes, "Why don't you leave that old family alone?" And he just shoots the glass behind her. The old lady just kind of stands there, and I love this bit. It's so he says it so calmly, but it's so threateningly. It's like but I couldn't help but laugh at it because it's very comedic how he says it. He looks at the old lady and he goes, "You heard him. Get in the house." You know, that sort of thing. And it's I'm paraphrasing, but it's soon going to the lines of that. Fucking hilarious for how he does it. And then Mackie comes back out, sees the glass, and he's like, "Yeah, you know, maybe we'll put you back inside." And the whole thing is just brilliant. But one thing I also want to mention, I watched the behind the scenes on this, and they had the a scene editor who explained about like how they did certain scenes in this movie, and she was talking about Gary Oldman in this scene that I've just explained, and she was saying there's like one thing about Gary Oldman is that you can do 20 different takes. Each take will be similar but have differences, but he will never give you the same take. You can tell that every time he does a take that he'll take something and he will sort of add to it, or like you can see the origins of it in the first take, and that by the sort of fifth to sixth tape he's got it down. So he'll just do something, so he'll be playing, so like, and they showed you about 2-3 scenes. One scene where he's just talking to the bloke and he's just standing there with, you know, his elbow on it resting, his sort of fingers are resting on his head, looking at him, sort of head tilted, talking to him. Sort of scene 2, he's resting, then he just sort of moots out, he plays a little piano, and then like the third scene, you know, he's put his head, plays a bit of piano, then he goes, he was Austrian, you know, and he does the Austrian accent, and he does a few more things. And she was just saying, like, in that moment, like, he just, every scene, every time he was on there, he would give you the evolution of what he was doing every time. So by the time you got to, you kind of wanted to keep filming him because you wanted to see what he would try next, because every time was something new, or it was sort of a progression of something that he's already done but done better or new. And like, his brain just worked so quickly how he would just improvise and try new things, but every time it would be sort of new and it would just work. And I thought that was fascinating. And when I watched the scene for the second time, I could see it. You know, I just appreciate it more. And there's also moments as well where you've got the guy's dad, the guy that plays Matilda's dad, who gets shot. And he was also talking about that scene where he's with Gary Oldman, and they're on about sort of gun safety and stuff like that. And there's a moment when Stanfield, he's shooting him in the back as he's walking down, and you know, they would go through, and like Gary Oldman was like, "Look, you know, I want it to be safe. I want to make sure everything's safe." Because again, he's still a professional. He's still an actor. Like, yeah, he's a bit sort of method, but he's still a very sort of professional actor. And like Luc Besson apparently was like, yeah, it's fine. It's like, even sort of to show him, like, look, he got the gun and he clicked it, click. As you can see, empty rounds, like empty chamber sort of thing. And it's going to be sort of what's the word? Sort of like, it's going to be an empty gun, so click, as you can see. Or we're going to put the sound effects and the special effects in afterwards. All you've got to do is literally go bang, 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 done. And like, every time click, I want you to react. Again, the body on the floor, you know, as you're getting shot. And they're like, they've cleared it. Okay, fine. Luc Besson's like, yeah, it's okay, cool. What they didn't tell Gary Oldman, and what they didn't tell Matilda's dad, was that Luc Besson had taken the gun and put a blank in, kind of like a Russian roulette, put a blank in, like span it, didn't tell anybody, gave the gun. And again, let's be honest, this is very dangerous, because as we know with The Crow and what happened on that set, blanks are dangerous, especially at close range. You know, blanks are still very, very dangerous and can kill somebody, again, as they did in the movie The Crow. So admittedly, he shouldn't have done it, but at the same stage, as the guy says, he goes, the guy, I think he says under some lines of, that's the kind of person that Luc Besson is because he knew it would get a reaction, and it would be a real reaction out of both Gary Oldman and the guy. And it is. And I'm going to watch the scene again, and it is true. You watch him, and he goes bang, 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 and there's no flash. And I think on the third bang, there's a flash, because that was the round going off. And apparently, in that moment, you had the Matilda's dad, the guy acted playing it, he sort of jumped, because again, he wasn't expecting the sort of like actual gunshot. And apparently you don't see it because it cuts away, but apparently when they were doing that scene, Gary Oldman apparently went, "What the fuck?" and threw the gun, literally like bang, and ricocheted and threw it back behind him. But they cut it in such a way where you don't see that, but it's bang, 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 and then another cut is when it's different. apparently that's something that they did. And I just love that scene even more, knowing the fact of bang, 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 click, 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 and just thinking that when you see the shot, it's Gary Oldman going to the fuck, like that's not meant to be in there. So yeah, watch the special features, people. If you got a movie and you love it, watch the special features, because you will appreciate that movie a lot more when you find out how it's made. Even though you're having a peek behind the curtain, when you can see the production of how things are made, to me personally, it just makes things better. But yeah, I went on a bit of a tandem there. I do apologize, but the way Gary Oldman is in this movie is terrifying, and like especially when he takes the pill, when he turns into Hyde. You are uncomfortable anyway with Stanfield because he's a psychopath. But when he takes that pill, you are terrified that any moment he's going to break the third wall and he's going to turn away, look into the camera, and kind of like The Ring, like the little girl from The Ring, he's going to come through the screen and he's just going to be in your living room. That's how terrifying a performance it is. But like, you are so sort of terrified and sort of disgusted, but you can't look away. You're like, oh my God, like I should look away, but I can't, because I'm fully sort of like, I don't know what he's going to do next. You are fully invested in his performance, and it's brilliant. And it's the same with John Reno playing Léon as well. How his evolution for this movie, of how he's an enigma. You don't know anything about him. You don't know who he is. You don't know why he's there. You get hints here and there, but overall, he's an enigma. He literally, he's like a robot. He's like a machine. The movie begins. I'll start talking about the story a little bit now. The movie begins, and Léon, he goes on a job. He goes against the fat man. He takes all the guys out. And like a ghost, like apparition, he appears behind the guy with a knife. He's taken all the guys out. Guys with a knife behind him. He comes out the shadows. Really cool scene. And he has a phone, and he shows him this note, and he shows it to the fat man, and he goes, ring this number. And the number, and you can hear on the phone, he's like a guy being like, hey, heard you in town. He's like, yeah, no, I'm just for the day. And the guy's like, well, I can assume then this will be your last day, and that you'll get the fuck out of town. And he goes, yeah. And then he's like, pass the phone to our mutual friend, pass the phone back to Léon, and he's like, make sure he gets the message, and then let him go. And Léon sort of gives it back to the guy, and he's like, did you get the message? Yep. Okay. Sort of, and then just silks back into the shadows, but doesn't remove the knife. And then as sort of he sleeps back, the knife gently just comes up out the way, and the guy turns around, and he's gone, like a ghost, like an apparition, right? And the guy shits himself. He's like, oh God. And then obviously you never see him again. You can imagine that, contract ended. He shit himself. He's going to leave town. He'll never come back. And then sort of Léon sort of goes to the shop. He gets his milk. He goes to his room. So he sees Matilda. Doesn't really have much in the way of talking to her, but he sees Matilda. Goes into his room, and kind of like a robot. Then he exercises. He drinks his milk. Doesn't seem to sort of do anything apart from drink milk, exercise. And then it becomes dark, and he goes into his room. He's sitting there fully clothed, sitting in a chair in a corner, puts a gun on the side of the mantelpiece next to him, turns the light off, puts his shades on, and then just kind of like a robot shutting down, just kind of bows his head. But you can tell that he's ready. Any moment, any sound, anything that's not of the norm, he's ready, up and ready. Like he'd be ready up to fight, right? And he even explains to the movies like, after you kill somebody, you're a changed person. Your whole life is different. You sleep with one eye open after you kill somebody. It changes your whole life, whole perspective. You are never the same again. And it explains as to why he sleeps like that, because he doesn't sleep in a bed. He can't get comfortable anymore because he's killed somebody. He's changed him, and he's killed that many people that he has that skeleton. He has those ghosts. He has that thing of like anybody, any day could come for him. So he can't sleep in a bed. He sleeps in the chair. And he kind of shuts down like a robot. And he's a bit strange, a bit weird. He goes to see Cary Grant. Not Cary Grant, Gene Kelly. In the pictures, and he looks back. He's really happy and excited. He turns around, and there's one other person fast asleep, in the cinema, and he's just enjoying it himself, and he's drinking the milk. And again, like I said, he's an enigma. You don't know much about him. And then when he meets Matilda, and he starts to change throughout the movie, and he starts to see what life is all about again, and he starts to get a new sort of found like he's still an enigma, but he's still sort of a newfound, sort of new person. A new person is sort of reborn. And I love sort of the moments when Leon lets sort of Matilda into his apartment. You have like sort of angelic sort of music, and you see her face. It's lit up all white as she comes in. It's like a new beginning for her. All of her sins have been washed away and start a new life. And at the ending, it's the same for Leon, because as he's walking out the building before sort of he has his altercation with Stanfield, again, white light, as if like all of his sins have been washed away. He's about to start a new life. And then just before he gets to walk out into the shiny gates, to live his life with Matilda, Stanfield sort of shoots him in the back, and then they have their little moment. I know I'm jumping about. I just love this movie so much, so you're gonna have to bear with me. But his sort of evolution through this movie is fantastic, and it's the same with Matilda with Natalie Portman. Is that, you know, she's 12, but she pretends, she lies to Leon. She says, "Oh, I'm 18. I'm actually older." But she's 12. She's still a kid. But the thing is, though, you quickly learn that she lives in a very dysfunctional family. You know, her stepmom and her stepsister are really horrible to her. Well, we don't know so much the stepmom, to be honest. But her stepsister is horrible to her. You know, she kept hitting her with the remote when she changed the channel. Her dad obviously hits her and beats her because she has bruises on her face and stuff like that. And she even sort of makes the comment, basically says like, "Oh, you know, her little brother, like he never really cries. He mostly just kind of sits there and cuddles me." To say that he probably also beats the younger kid as well. You know, so she's already lived a half life being 12. Again, she's lost her mother as well. She never says it, but she says it's my stepmother, so I would imagine she's probably lost her mother as well. She's stuck with an abusive father, and you know, she's had to grow up very quickly. She's having to sort of go out, get food, to buy food for the house. She wants to be a kid. She wants to do cartoons, but she can't. She is having to be a mother to her younger brother, who's only about 4 years old. And again, she is seeing sex, you know, not obviously regularly, but you know, it's a normal sort of thing, I would imagine, because when she changes the channel of her sister, she runs into the bathroom to go to tell her parents, like, she's going to hit me, opens the door and sees her dad and her stepmom sort of having sex in the bathroom. And it's not that shock. It's not like, oh my God, oh, it's all the fact that it's that thing of like, you know, it's like a normal thing. So you can imagine she's probably used to seeing it. And it just goes to show that she hasn't lived a normal sort of kid life. She's had to grow up really, really fast. And you notice that as well, where she spends more time with Leon as he teaches her to become a cleaner, and as she starts to mature, really, that she's growing up too quickly, how that the innocence has washed away from her, that she's trying to she doesn't understand what love means. She doesn't understand the meaning of love, the meaning of sex, the meaning of life, really, because she's had to grow up so quickly that she, you know, she's got a mind like a sort of 18, sort of 20-year-old, but she's still sort of 12. So her evolution's fascinating as well. And again, it comes back to what I was saying in the introduction of, I really wish they did a sequel called Matilda, where you could have seen an older Matilda, an older Natalie Portman, how that, you know, she's from the lessons that she's learned from Leon, you know, carrying on as a cleaner, and where that's got her and that sort of thing, and where she is now, and the evolution from the beginning of the movie when you first meet her to how she's at the end of the movie, what she like, you know what I mean? Like, I need more of that. I need to see more of that. I know they did a sort of another movie called The Colombian, which I will watch with Zoe Saldana, but I really would love a Matilda sequel. Like, I need it so much. One thing I want to mention as well, and I mentioned it a little bit in the introduction, Ellen Greene, who is in Little Shop of Horrors. If you've seen Little Shop of Horrors, she always wears the leopard print sort of clothes, that sort of thing. She's got like the bob sort of hair. I swear to God, in this movie, she's wearing the exact same clothes that she was wearing in Little Shop of Horrors, like verbatim. Like it was, I don't know. It's like they went down, like she finished shooting Little Shop of Horrors, and then she literally wore same costume and then continued shooting this movie. You know, that's what it feels like. It is so one for one. I don't know if it was done intentionally or not. I'm not sure, but it was just like, as soon as I saw it the first time, I was like, that's someone from Little Shop of Horrors. She's wearing the same clothes that she wears in Little Shop of Horrors. Again, I don't know if it's intentional. I just wanted to mention it. But Okay, where am I with the story? I'm still at the beginning. Jesus. But yeah, he teaches her to become a cleaner, and she learns. And it's just this movie is just fantastic, you know. Um, and I love seeing their dynamic. And there's a funny moment where they're sort of playing a game where they've worked too much, and sort of Matilda's like, look, you know, she's still being a child at the end of the day. She's still sort of still is childish because she is a child. And she's like, let's play a game. And like, Leon's like, what sort of game? And she goes into a room, she dresses up, and she dresses like as Madonna, and she goes like a virgin, touch for the, like she's singing it to him, and she's like, Leon's like, who am I? And Leon's like, I don't know, I don't know. And then she goes to do she has this Marilyn Monroe, and she's like, happy birthday, Mr. President. You know, we all know that iconic thing that she did in front of Kennedy. Leon's like, I don't know. Then she does Charlie Chaplin, and she still didn't get it. And then she plays one guy. She goes, singing in the rain. Singing. And he's like, oh, Gene Kelly. And again, it's a reference to saying, like, you know, he is Leon is a fan of Gene Kelly. And he's like, finally got one. He's like, your turn. So he does one. He goes off, and he comes off, and he's like, howdy, Pilgrim. And he's going around, and she's like, Clint Eastwood. And he's just like, no. And then he goes, he stands up and goes, howdy, Pilgrim. You know, he's trying his best. And she's like, I don't know. He's like, John Wayne. And she's like, I was just about to say that. She goes, Leon, it was really good. No, you look really good. And obviously, Leon walks off very sort of disappointed. You know, so it's little moments like that. You know, there's another moment where like Leon, you know, he's got his little plant, and he's like, he's my best friend. He doesn't complain, and everything's great. You know, I love him. And Leon, and she goes, well, you know, maybe you should, instead of watering your plant so much, you should sort of water me and help me to grow, you know, as a cleaner, as a person. And he looks over and goes, oh, you're right. And he gets up and he starts spraying it with a button, and they have a bit of a play. It's kind of like a father and daughter sort of thing where, you know, playing, he's going, and she runs away, and she comes back, and she's got like the bucket from the kitchen that they wash everything up in. And he's like, no, Matilda, no. And she splashes him, and he's squirting her and chasing around the house. And look, it's a really lovely scene. There's another scene as well, which I love, but it's one of those sort of scenes where it shows very much who Leon is as a person, as a character. Especially when like she first sees him, because like when Leon first saves Matilda, there's a moment where they're talking to each other, and Leon's like, look, you can stay the night. And she gets in the bed, and he doesn't really know what to do really, so he kind of gets the blanket. Instead of putting the blanket over her, he literally puts the blanket is rolled up, puts it on top of her, and he goes, no, you sleep here, it'll be okay. And he goes back into his routine where like he sits on his little chair, he's got the gun, turns off the light, looks down, and then he gets back up, and he gets the gun, and he goes over to his like little cache where he's got all his guns, and he takes the silencer out. And at this moment I'm thinking, is he gonna go and like seek vengeance for Matilda? You know, kind of like, you know, like, you've just taken this girl's family, I'm gonna go kill everybody. Now that was my first sort of thinking when I first saw this scene. But no, once he's put the silencer on, he goes into the room where Matilda is, points the gun at her head, and I'm sitting there thinking, nah, he's not gonna do it. And he doesn't, because he says to us like, no women or children. That's my rule. Don't do women and children. Just don't do it. So I'm thinking, no, that's against his rule. He's not going to do it. And then he got the gun, and then he's like, and he can't do it. And he goes back and takes the silencer and sits down. And it's that moment of just like, you can see how his mind's working though. You can see that idea of like, my life is perfect. I like my life the way it is. With this girl, it's a problem. She won't leave. I've got her here. As long as she's here, my life the equilibrium of my life has been disrupted. She can't be here. So, you know, he generally considers, you can, like, he never says it, but you can generally work it out of like, yeah, if I kill her and get rid of her, all my problems are gone. Haven't got to worry about it, and my life will go on as normal. But he can't do it because that's not the type of person who Leon is. He can't kill a kid. You know, he can't kill somebody. So he doesn't do it. But again, I love that scene because without any words, you instantly know what he's thinking. You instantly know why or what's going on, and there's many moments like this in this movie where you're just taken away by the performances. And for a lot of it, you know, some of the really, really brilliant bits are bits where there's nothing said. There's no words being said. You know, there's no dialogue. It is literally music. shots and sort of just the behavior of the characters, the facial features, the way the characters are carrying themselves, the way Léon carries himself. Léon is a man of many of few words, and but instantly, just the way that John Reno plays him, you instantly know how he feels just by his facial expressions or the way he's got himself or anything like that. You just instantly know of like, I know what he's thinking. I know what he's feeling. I know when he is uncomfortable. I know when he is happy, when he is sad, when he's angry, when he's in pain, and all without dialogue. You just know, and that's just how talented John Reno is at playing the role, and how brilliant the character of Léon is. And it's the same with Gary Oldman. It's like even when Gary Oldman is not saying anything, you instantly is like, oh god, I'm feeling uncomfortable. And so like all the cast here is brilliant. And I know I haven't gone into the story very much because again, I kind of want to not talk about the story too much because again it's just such good of a story that if you haven't seen this movie you need to watch it. So what I will talk about now is kind of like the differences with the director's cut. So the director's cut, or sort of as sort of Luc Besson calls it, the longer version, is like I said, it's about 25 minutes of sort of extra scenes. They kind of, the whole point of them is to deepen the emotional connection between Léon and Matilda, sort of the tender moments between them. Now, what I will say is that after watching the director's cut, personally, in my opinion, I prefer the theatre version. I prefer the original cut of the movie, the version that everybody else would have seen when the movie first come out. In my opinion, it's a lot better. It's a lot more interesting. It's even though it's still quite long. Should I say it's just as long? You still have it. You can still kind of get the feelings, you get the emotions, you get everything still. And I will admit that is the true cut, in my opinion. That is, I agree with Luc Besson. That is the director's cut. That's the original vision, the original feeling, the everything about it. I love it. The director's cut, you just have a bit more scenes. So, for example, there's more intimacy. So there's a lot more scenes where you can see the pair bonding a lot more. You kind of get to spend a lot more time with these two characters. There's also moments of assassination training. So you get to actually watch Léon take Matilda on jobs with him. And it kind of also adds on to the fact of you get to see the scenes where Matilda meets Tony. Tony is basically Léon's handler. He's the guy that sets all the contracts and jobs up for him and kind of takes the leash off him and says, go boy, go kill him, and then comes back. Because again, before that, in the normal version, you don't get that. You don't. The only time that Matilda meets Tony is at the very end, where she goes and she's like, "Look, Léon's dead. Like, I need help," sort of thing. And she's like, "Look," Tony's like, "Look, I'll give you some money, but just like get out of here, kid," sort of thing. And she leaves. So, but that gives it that bit sort of added sort of clarity, shall we say? That gives it more sort of added momentum. Because they already have a relationship because they've already met each other, and you can probably imagine they've met each other a few times. And I love the bit where Léon takes her on the missions with him, where he goes up to a door and he's like, firstly, you've got to find out where the chain is, and he runs his hand down the side of the door and he's like, the chain's here, and he gets a chewing gum, he puts it over the spy hole. They're going to ring the doorbell, and I need you to talk the guy to get the guy to open the door. So she's like, who is it? And he's like, oh, it's Susan. I'm looking for somebody. And the guy's like, you got the wrong house. And she's like, oh, it's please sir, like playing the really childish sort of thing. She's like, please sir, the door, it's like lights out in here, it's really dark, like I don't know where I am, like if you can help me. And the guy opens the door and Leon's there with the bolt cutters. And as soon as the door opens, snaps the bolts off, kicks the door down, puts the gun in the man's mouth with the silencer and says, bite down. And he goes, do not unbite. And it literally has got the gun in the guy's mouth and leading him around the house as he's got another gun in the hand, looking for if there's anybody else in the hand. He goes from room to room with this guy with the gun in his hand. And Matilda comes through. She's got a little lunchbox with her little sort of gun in, brings her around. And then once he finds out that the room's clear, he looks at the guy and he goes, he's like, release. And he takes the unclamp and he points him into the corner, goes stands in the corner. And then Matilda's like, it's your turn. And so Matilda gets her gun out and she points the gun at him. And this guy's like, look, please, 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 like guy, like, please. It's like, don't. And Matilda's looking for a little to the left, please. And the guy moves over. And he's in the corner. And she shoots him, but it's a paintball. Shoots him in the side. And she goes, okay, no. And Léon looks at it. It's like a lesson. This guy's panicking. He's there going, he's just been shot with paintball. Thinks he's been shot. He's freaking out. He's like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, I don't know what's going on. Because again, you would be. It's a mindfuck situation. These guys come in with guns, and all of a sudden the guy somebody shoots you, and it's a paintball. You don't know what's going on, if those guns are real or they're not real. So she shoots him, and then Léon looks at Matilda, and she goes, look, first shot is to kind of get him down, and the second shot, and she goes, are you ready for the second shot? And she fires the second shot, and she fires it just a little bit to the right of the first shot. And Léon looks at her, and she goes, and not in a horrible way, in a very sort of friendly sort of teaching her, calm sort of manner, kind of looks at her and goes, the second shot is the kill shot, never in the face, because if you shoot the person in the face, the contract is void, because that means that you could have gone out and shot anybody. So always make sure you don't shoot for the face, so that they can recognize the contract, so you can get paid. But you should always aim for the diaphragm, for the middle, for the lungs, for the heart, as the second shot. The first shot is to get them down, and the second shot is the insurance to make sure that they're dead. Very much double tap if you've seen Zombieland. And she's like, okay. And he's like, yeah, you can put the gun away now. So she goes to put his gun away, and Léon turns around to her, and it turns to the bloke, and you don't see it, you mostly hear it, but he just goes toot toot, shoot shoot, bosh bosh, gone. And you get a few more moments of this where it's like it's very sort of like quick succession of scenes where they're doing the same trick, and each time they do it, you can tell that they're getting more proficient, more stronger sort of a team. Matilda's getting sort of a lot better with doing this as well, and she's knocking on bolt cutters, bam, bam, bam. You can tell she's probably using real guns at this stage, or Léon is, but she's just watching. You don't really see it, but they go into the room very sort of like infiltrator sort of mode. And I love that, because I wish those sort of training moments was in the original cut of the movie, because they really add a lot more longevity and weight to the moments, to their relationship. You can actually say like he's actually teaching her, because in the normal cut, you don't see those sort of bits. You just assume that he's teaching her, because you see her, she cleans the guns for him and stuff like that, but you don't actually see none of the actual training to be a cleaner. Whereas this, you get to see those sort of moments. You can see how proficient she's getting and how she's getting more confident. And it makes sense later on when she goes back to her house to go get some of her stuff from the house and get some money, only to then sort of see Stanfield. He doesn't see her, but she sees Stanfield. She overhears him, and she hears him say, like, you want to come find me, because he's talking to some cops that want to question him about what happened here. And obviously he's lied, saying, it was a scuffle, I had to take the guys down, and the guy killed his family and all this jazz. He's basically lied to him, because, look, if you want me to answer more questions, come to my office. My office is at so-and-so address, at so-and-so building. So obviously it adds to she's gone on training. So by this stage, she feels a lot more confident that she's going to take down Stanfield and his whole gang on her own, only to get there and to basically caught off guard by Stanfield, and she completely flops it, and she was not able to do it, and Léon has to come in and save her. It just goes to add to that fact of she grew in confidence, not the fact that she just met him and she's like, oh, I'm going to get revenge. It's like, no. She feels like she can, because she's been on enough missions with Léon. One of the first ones she goes on, he gives her a rifle, and he says to her, is like, the rifle is the first part of your training, because it allows you distance from your contract, from the client, so that if you make a mistake, you've got distance, and you haven't got to worry. And he goes, the knife is the final lesson you'll learn, because it's up close and personal, and by that stage you should be proficient enough where you should be able to take somebody out with a knife without having to worry about the client killing you. And I love all these rules and the way it is, and how to be a cleaner. And again, it just makes me wish there was a Matilda movie, because we could have got more of these rules and that sort of thing. Anyway, and they're on the roof, and they've got a sniper rifle, and they see a guy, and she goes to pop the scope, the cover off the scope. He's like, no, never do that to the last minute, because it was a light goes glare, and the client can see you from a mile off. So never do it till last minute. So she pops it off. She sees the target, shoots him. It's a paintball. And it's a beautifully lit scene. It's one of the most beautiful scenes of the movie, to be honest. but I just love those little sort of moments. So you get more of the assassination training, and like more context to certain scenes. The one thing, the one sort of added scenes that I don't like, and it made me feel uncomfortable. And I can understand now when I was looking to my research why why it didn't work with American audiences, why with a lot of audiences, to be honest, and why it was taken out, and why for a lot of people, it's kind of what's the word to use really? It's kind of there is a proper word, but I can't think of the word. But shall we say sour taste in a lot of people's mouth? Is because they have the increased intimacy in a lot of these scenes. So there's a lot more sort of Natalie Portman's Matilda's character expressing a lot more romantic feelings with Leon. You know, there's a moment where she's trying to kiss Leon. She's like, "Give me a kiss," when they're in the restaurant, and Leon's like, "No, no, no," and like Leon's like, "No, go away, like Matilda, stop being silly, stop it. You know, I'm your protector. This is wrong," sort of thing. And there's a moment where she basically tries to, long and short of it, you know, she tries to emphasize this idea of sort of say, well, playing. It's a scene where she tries to initiate sort of a sexual game with Leon. It's a very sort of how can I explain it? Very uncomfortable scene. But Leon's like, no, like he tries to clarify, like, I am your protector. I'm not your lover. You know, you're young. You don't understand love. You don't understand anything like that. And obviously, these more context scenes, they're trying to emphasize that Matilda's loss of innocence, sort of transforming her from a child into an adult, into an assassin. And I get why they're there. I just don't like them. They just make me feel uncomfortable. But also in that scene, you know, where she's basically trying to make a move to Leon. Leon basically says to her, like, "Look, I don't love you like that, and I could never love anybody." And he goes into his backstory, and he basically says, under the lines of that I once had, before I came to this country, in my home country, there was a woman that I loved, and that her father didn't approve. But because I loved her, we still met up, and we still wanted to be together. And one day, her father shoots her and kills her. He tries to say it was an accident, but I know it wasn't. So one day I get a gun, and I wait in the shadows for his father to appear, and I kill him. And then that night, when I was 19, and it adds to the context when Léon says, like, he made his first kill when he was 19. After then, his life hasn't been the same. He goes to say, "Look, after that night, I got on a boat. I came to this country to see my father, who worked for Tony, and this has been my life ever since." And I don't like it because it ruins the enigma. One of the things that makes Leon so brilliant as a character is that he's an enigma. You know nothing about him from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, even though he becomes more human and less robotic. And Matilda shows him what it is to what it is to live and to love life, to kind of rejuvenate him. Even then, you still know nothing about him. What makes the character so great? Whereas this added scene, as apart from being really uncomfortable, you also have that moment where you learn too much about him. You learn too much. Like, you know, you can sit there and you go, "Well, why does Leon drink milk all the time?" You know, and you think like, wait, it doesn't matter that he drinks milk all the time. It's part of him being an enigma, being strange. Of, you know, he doesn't, like, it bothered me at first, but then I sat there and go, well, actually, it doesn't bother me because I like it. I like that all he does is drink milk, and you only ever see him drink milk. You know, you never see him eat. He just drinks milk. You know, it's very strange, very weird why he likes milk so much, and why like, you see Matilda eat normally, but you never see him eat. It adds to the mystique, to the enigma, to Leon, the professional. It makes him more terrifying and scary, but also interesting and wonderful. But when you learn that, you know, he had a lover, and that she was killed by her father, and then Leon killed the dad, and then ran off to America, and then just started doing wet work, like becoming an assassin, it kind of, it loses that mystique, it loses that mystery, it loses sort of things. So it's those small scenes, sort of the more intimacy and the more sort of weird romance sort of feeling sort of parts I didn't really like, and kind of made me a bit uncomfortable, to be honest. Those are the moments where I kind of looked at my phone and I was like, okay, I want to search on through TikTok and Instagram. Okay, the scene's over, thank God, sort of thing. So yeah, those scenes weren't really needed, and I agree they could have been cut and got rid of that's fine. But I would have hoped that we had a lot more of the moments of, the assassination training, and the moments when you've just got Leon and you've got Matilda just bonding in terms of, protector and trainee sort of thing, teacher, master and trainee, that sort of thing, master and student. Those sort of moments that were added in, brilliant. The assassination training, fantastic. But the other sort of moments, yeah, no. But yeah, so in my opinion, the original version is the best version. The director's cut, not so much. But will I still say to experience it? Yes, if you like the movie, and if the DVD or whatever you've got does come with the director's cut, still give it a watch for those extra sort of moments. But yeah, it is a bit uncomfortable, to be honest, especially at certain points. You're like, I feel as uncomfortable as Leon feels in those sort of moments, and so much so that I sit there and I'm like, leave Leon alone. You can tell he's uncomfortable. You can tell that he doesn't want to do these scenes, that he's not interested. And it's like, very uncomfortable. But anyway, and yeah, I think it's worth coming to overall thoughts now. As you can tell, I love this movie. As I've gone in so much detail, and I've just realised I've been talking for almost an hour at the moment. Jesus. So if you're still sticking around, thank you. But I do really generally love this movie. It is a work of art. And it's made me a fan of Luc Besson. I want to go back and I want to see his other sort of French-made, French-speaking films, because I wanted to look at French sort of foreign films on the podcast more anyway. So I've got a lot more to look into and to talk about films that he's written, films that he's directed. So I'm excited for that. I was like Jean Reno as well. I always knew he was brilliant, but I just didn't realize how brilliant he was until I watched this movie. And it's kind of funny that he was doing talking about this movie and sort of looking back after sort of 10 years after this movie was made, and which was around about 2004. And he said, like, look, at the beginning of my career, I played a lot of different roles, and I played a lot of roles that were like Leon, and that it kind of shaped him and changed the way he acted. To the point of, he kind of was like, look, I've done a lot of these roles, I want to do something different. And that led him to do other roles. And that led him to do movies like The Pink Panther, where he did more sort of comedic sort of roles and stuff like that, which I love. I love that. And I want to see more movies that he's done. I have seen films that he's in, but because like he did Godzilla, which I think he's really, really good in Godzilla, even though he doesn't do much, he's really cool in that. So yeah, it's just fascinating seeing that. And obviously Natalie Portman, around like 2004, she's sort of doing an interview as well. And she was sort of talking about, this was her first ever gig, and how that she really wanted to do the role, and that her parents weren't sure about it after they read the script. And like she pulled a fit. She was like, no, you're ruining my life. This is going to be like the best role I've ever done. I really love it. And like then 2004, I don't know how she feels now, but then 2004, she looked back at it quite sort of positively. She goes, look, I loved the movie. I had a fantastic time. And they even show a scene where like it was her final day of shooting. And once they yell cut, they drop loads of confetti on her. And I just thought that was brilliant. That was just fantastic. It just shows that, it was a really cool, good set, and everybody got on, and it was a sort of great time, and sort of I love that. But yeah, I'm waffling. Just watch this movie. Go watch Leon the Professional. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you have seen it, but you haven't seen it in a while, do yourself a favor, watch it again, because it's really, really good. Like it's art. We watch cinema to sort of get away from reality, to break free from the world. That's why we watch cinema. That's why we watch movies. And this movie's art, and I love it. I really do. I think it's brilliant, and it's going to be a film that I'm going to recommend to people all the time, forever. Now, like if you haven't seen Leon the Professional, watch Leon the Professional. So yeah, overall thoughts. I loved it. I'm blown away, and yeah, I'm just really happy that I finally got around to watching it, and it's as good as what I was hoping it was going to be. Because I was really worried that hype was going to kill it, but generally, it was really, really good. Before we wrap things up, and we sort of bring these things to an end, I want to do a bit of trivia. So It was John Reno's decision to play Leon as if he were sort of a little mentally slow and emotionally repressed. He felt that this would make audiences accept that Leon wasn't someone who would take advantage of a vulnerable young girl. Reno claims that for Leon, the possibility of a physical relationship with Matilda is inconceivable. So when such a relationship is discussed in the movie, Reno very much allowed Portman to be emotionally in control of the scene. Reno stated that his rationale for agreeing to play the part was that his character was a 10-year-old boy in love with a 12-year-old girl. So the relationship could only ever be platonic. Another bit of trivia for you. So this is Natalie Portman's motion picture debut. She was 11 years old when she was cast. Keith A. Glasgow later became a member of the New York Fire Department, Ladder Company 21 in Hell's Kitchen. He died in the collapse of the World Trade Center on September the 11th. Keith Glasgow, who did he play? I feel really bad for not knowing this. I've actually got to look at the cast now. So who did Keith play? Keith. He was one of Stanfield's men. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Oh, well, fair play to the guy. Fair play to him. When the film was first tested in Los Angeles, California, the version that was screened included a short scene when Matilda asked Leon to be her lover. However, the audience became extremely uncomfortable and began to laugh nervously. I completely understand why. Completely destroying the tone of the film. The film received terrible test scores at the screening, and as such, producer Patrice Ledoux and writer-director Luc Besson decided to cut the scene for the version completely. I completely agree. It was the best decision to cut that scene because it's just uncomfortable. It doesn't work, in my opinion. It really just doesn't work. And is there more? All the interiors of Leon's apartment were shot in Paris, France. All of the shots of the outside corridor were shot 6 weeks earlier in New York City. That's about it really for trivia, which is probably good because I think I've been talking for a long time. There's so much more I could say about this movie. I could even go into detail about how weird Stanfield's sort of henchmen are. And it's like, there's no way that anybody in the DEA could look at sort of Stanfield and not go, that guy's dodgy, just by looking at the men he's got. He's got a white guy with dreadlocks who speaks as if he's a Rastafarian. I think his name's Willie One Blood or something like that, and they just call him Blood. You've got a guy that looks like he's a veteran just come out of the Vietnam War. There's a guy that's dressed up as a biker. There's another bloke who gets blown away, which I can't remember, but it's a very odd couple sort of thing. There's no way you can believe that anybody at the DA department. Why are they not questioning? Why the hell is Stanfield hanging around and bringing these guys to the office? Because they just don't look like they belong. You know what I mean? So why is nobody questioning that this guy's rotten? But again, I could go into full detail about that, but I won't because we've already been here too long. The point is, it's a brilliant movie. Go watch it. I love it. Simple as that. And yeah, thank you very much for sort of staying with me today as I talk about sort of Leon the Professional. It is an absolute pleasure and a joy to talk about such a brilliant movie. And I hope you all enjoyed it. If you stuck around this long, again, I really appreciate it. Make sure to leave a comment down below if you're listening on Spotify. If you're listening on YouTube, again, you can put a comment down below. Don't forget to rate the podcast 5 stars. Give me a follow on Spotify. Follow me on Twitter, HowdyBeans_pod. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram. And yeah, so thank you very much for listening. I've been your host, Luke the Howdy Bean. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye.